Um, I've been using Calendly for about 2 years now. I really like it a lot. For several reasons, mainly because it just helps keep my day in line when it comes to scheduling appointments with clients. You know, there's been so much talk around compensation and also just the ninja way, making things more professional. And you when you call your dentist office, when you call your CPA, when you call any professional industry, they don't just say, oh well, show up around 2 o'clock. They don't say, well, we'll call you back maybe between 2 and 5, right? There's set times, you get a confirmation, you have an appointment. It's very professional. And I think that that is something that sometimes is lacking in our industry. And when you're talking to someone about paying you compensation, but yet you're kind of lackadaisical about even making an appointment with them, I think that can kind of take away from this desire for our industry to you know to legitimize our compensation. And so I think using a tool like Calendly can, one, simplify your day and your life, and then two, just add that added layer of organization and professionalism that can really benefit our industry. The great thing about Calendly is majority of what you want to do, you don't even need to pay for the account. Now, I have a paid account. I'm not exactly sure why, because I just created a non-paid account and I was pretty much able to do everything that I thought I needed to do. So I'm going to go into my non-paid account just because I don't want to show features for the other account. So I just used my personal email for this one. The Calendly will integrate with your Google Calendar or your Outlook calendar, depending on what type of email address you have. So if you have a Gmail account, it'll immediately sync with your Google Calendar. And so because I have an Outlook email, it's going to integrate with my Outlook calendar. So this is my personal email. So of course it's not going to really show like all of my appointments the same way. Now I gotta remember what I made my password. Ah. An event. There's this one. This 30-minute meeting is just a standard meeting that they put in the system. But I want to show you how easy it is to create one, like an appointment. So what you just do is you go under your meetings, or sorry, go under your event types, and then you would create a new event. And then you're going to decide. So majority of them are going to be one-on-one. If you intend to have like maybe a buyer's agent or someone else involved, you can create a collective. But typically I would just do the one-on-one, and then you can add additional attendees that way. So obviously I'm going to be the host, and then from here you're going to create whatever the category is. So let's say listing and then you're going to select how long the meeting is. If it's an hour, and then you would obviously from the ninja way you would select in-person meeting, and then you can provide the address here. So like if you plan on having the meeting here at the office, you can put that address in, or you can just continue. Or you can put something, if it's a listing appointment, it's going to be at their home, say listing address. And then you can add an actual location like once you do the appointment. So then you hit continue. And then here's where you can kind of personalize the event a little bit more. Here you can select how far out in your advance in your calendar. I think this is really important. I don't have my calendar available more than 10 days because truthfully, I just don't know what my life looks like really more than 2 days out. But collectively, I can't, really schedule anything much more than 10 days out. So you always want to make sure you change this to what makes sense for you. Maybe it's only, someone has access to your calendar for the next 4 days, or however you want to have it done. But I think 7 or 10 days is usually a pretty good timeline. And then you can select the days in which the person can make the appointment. So if you are trying to do these only 9 to 5, or if you know that listing appointments make sense when the borrower or the homeowner's out of work in the evenings, select which 2 or 3 evenings or however many evenings in a week you want to keep your calendar open for these potential appointments. So for instance, when I do this, I have a pre-qualification call. I have it set up that on Mondays and Wednesday evenings, my calendar is open into the evening, more than just a 9 to 5, because I try to make it available for those 2 days. Does that mean I don't ever schedule an appointment on a Thursday at 7 o'clock? No, it just means that those are the 2 days in the week that I feel comfortable with people randomly scheduling an appointment, because in my mind, I always know that I'm going to try to keep my calendar open or keep myself available. Now, if, for instance, you have made your calendar open for Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursdays, and let's say you've kept your calendar open and you've extended the time. So for instance here, if you extend the time and you say you're willing to be available until 8 p.m. on those days, and then let's say one of your kids has a sporting event next Wednesday that you have on your calendar from 6 to 7, it's not going to allow you to double book. That's the great thing about it. So if your calendar is available at that time, it'll allow you to book. If it's not, because you've scheduled something else, the calendar won't show available. So that's the kind of benefit of this, of keeping up with your calendar. It's very important. I have found myself in situations where I forgot to put something personal on my calendar, and then a potential client does book. So then you have to deal with that. So the more that you can keep on your electronic calendar, and sometimes for me, it's even as simple as, like, I know that night that I normally would be available on a Wednesday, I may just block it off and just say dinner with family, because I just don't want that night to be interrupted with a potential client appointment. So then once you figure out what your availability is, then I would also recommend creating a buffer. So what this means is that there isn't anything that can get scheduled up to a certain amount of time before and a certain amount of time after. So those buffers can be important, because if you've got drive time, like if you have to drive to the client's house, or drive home, you don't, it'd be a great situation if clients are booking back-to-back appointments with you. So it's probably not likely to happen, but you want to have a buffer in there, especially if this is a localized meeting that you have to do at their home or at the office. You want to make sure that your calendar doesn't get filled up prior or after. Or you may just say, like, if you put a buffer in and you only want one client consultation that can be scheduled in a day, then put, your, an 8-hour buffer or something like that. But typically you want to I usually try to put at least most of my calls are just that, they're calls, they're not in-person meetings. So I usually have a buffer of at least 15 to 30 minutes on mine, because that way if the client call goes over, or I'm running a little bit behind, or if I need some time to do some follow-up before my appointment, if like rates have changed that day, I've got a little bit of buffer so that I don't have, a back-to-back appointment with client to client in there. So definitely, I would recommend doing at least a 30-minute buffer before and after your meetings, again, just to have a little bit of space and time. And then when someone wants to book, they need at least, so this is something else you might want to change. So for mine, again, because most of my appointments are over the phone, I don't have a lot of required lead time, but you may, seeing as these could be listing or buyer consultations, you may want to put like a 24-hour lead time, meaning they can't schedule it on your calendar unless there's at least 24 hours lead time. So this is going to default to 4 hours, but you can change it to whatever you need it to be. So let's just say 24 hours. And then the daily limit, I don't think is necessary. I think that would be a great problem for all of us to have if we were finding ourselves overbooking on listing and buyer consultations. And then this, depending on where they are, especially if you have out of town buyers, it's nice that it will sync to their, if you're doing like some type of like maybe relocating buyer, and let's say they're in California, it will sync when they pull this up, it'll sync to their time zone. So that's kind of nice. And then again, this is just showing the frequency in which the available time slots are for the attendees. And that's about it for that part. And then what I do like too is that you can add additional information that you can ask the buyer up front, so, or seller, or whomever the client is. So you want to, make sure that you ask for their name, and then so this, you can ask for name, or you can do it more officially, like with the last name, first name type situation. I think it's a good idea to ask how many people will be attending. If you want to add additional questions, so for instance, I often have, like when it's someone setting up a buyer pre-qualification call with me, I'll ask them, I think one of the most important questions I ask is who referred them to me. So that way I know if I'm talking to Mr. Smith, I can say, oh, I'm glad you're working with Craig. I can reference back to the person who referred them to me. So that may be a question you want to ask. Another question you may want to ask is, what's your timeline for purchasing a home, or what's your timeline for listing your house? So you can put in several questions that you may want to ask them up front just to help you better prepare for your meeting. And they can be one-line questions, they can be checkbox drop down. So there's quite a few different ways you can approach it. So if you want to make it easier for them and put in like check boxes, you could give them timelines like 1 to 3 months, 3 to 6 months, in the next year, I don't know, just to kind of help along with the questions if you're going to ask them anything up front. So I think that that's also kind of nice when you can put something in there. So gosh, jeez, I really don't type this bad. It's just this keyboard is like super small. So, and you can make it a required field, or you could just make it optional. I don't typically try to make anything required because I don't want people to like not want to answer a question and then not move forward with it. But most people do answer the questions if you put them in there. Sure, if you want to go ahead and collect payment up front, you got that as an option here. And then after booking, I would just keep that as the standard. And then that's pretty much it for that. So again, you can create quite a few different event types. And then the great thing is if you're maybe either talking to them through email, or if you say to them, look, I'm going to send you an email link, or I'm going to send you an email, and in there will be a link to my calendar for you to select a time and day that works best for your schedule. You can do that. It's really simple. You just copy the link, and then you can cut and paste that over to your email or your drop down. If you're using the app, in the app, it's very simple. The app's on my main page. I obviously can't see it very well on the phone, but I have all of my different categories of appointments. And when someone asks to make an appointment with me, I just click on the specific appointment, I hit copy the link, and then I just text it to them, and then they have the link and they can schedule it. Now, that's one way you can handle it. The other way that I think is also somewhat more efficient is that you just schedule the appointment for yourself with the client on the phone. So typically for me, when I have a client come to me from Craig or Kendra or somebody, either they've already scheduled them on my calendar, or perhaps they didn't and they were just like, Carrie, can you call this person at 5 o'clock today? I talk to the person at 5 o'clock, Mr. Smith. I take down all of his information. And then I have a follow-up call that's usually in the next 24 hours. I don't send the link to the client to schedule a follow-up call with me. I just, on the phone with them, say, okay, I'd like to follow up with you tomorrow. We can go over your loan approval, talk about numbers. When are you available? And so what happens is, when they're on the phone with me, they say, oh, okay, I prefer after 3 o'clock. So either if I'm using the app or if I'm on my computer, yeah, come on. Oh, let's see. Okay. Okay. So while I'm on the phone with them, I'll say, okay, tomorrow you said after 3 o'clock. I'll go to my calendar right in here. And then I mean, most often I'm just saying to them, okay, I have a 2 o'clock, a 3 o'clock, a 2:30. Which time slot is best for you? And then they'll tell me. And then I go ahead and I'm going to use Craig as a guinea pig because I want to show you guys what. Wait, this is the one I set up. Hold on. Let me go back here real quick. My meetings. Event types. All right, let me go back in here. Buyer consult, edit. One of the things also too that you want to do is notifications. Sorry, I got ahead of myself. Under notifications, you want to make sure that you have, I personally like having several features set up. So this one right here, this is an immediate notification that goes to them about the booking of the appointment. Obviously, we're not going to have cancellation policies, but if you did, you'd have that there. And then an email reminder. So I like this too, especially if the appointment, if someone says, okay, let's say today's Wednesday and the next time they want to meet with you on next Monday. I think having reminders that go to them scheduled out are important. So it's going to default to a 24-hour reminder. And then this is essentially what the email looks like. It lists their name, the event, the time, the location, and then it all is very professional. I also like the text reminder. And sometimes I have it set up so that my text reminder goes out to them like maybe an hour or two before, because people get caught up in their day, especially if it's a phone call. If it's a meeting in the evening, I would recommend that you have the text reminder go out to them like 2 hours before, because people get home from work, they kind of get into their routine, and then they're like, oh shit, Craig's going to show up to our house in an hour. So if you have a text reminder going out to them, and you can, like I said, you can set this up. Can't wait to see you, and this evening. Looking forward to meeting with you. You can specialize this to say whatever you want, and it goes out to them in text. Is it? Huh? Because I'm not in the paid version, so. Let's see. Okay. Let's see. 4 hours. Huh. And that's, you said the text reminders?
Email reminders.
Oh, okay. So, I mean, ultimately, text is probably the best anyways, because it goes to them right away. Although this one let me do the email reminders, which is interesting. Yeah. So then here's the other option too. This is after the event, which is kind of nice too. This is an automatic thing that can go out and just simply say, thanks for meeting with me. It was a pleasure. I look forward to getting back with you. Especially with the Ninja training that we have all had, a lot of times when you do that initial consult, not everything is decided and determined at that appointment. So this is a way to kind of set them up for the follow-up appointment. So I think that this is a nice feature. So let's do this. Edit. Let's do this. I don't even know if it will let me do. Yeah, you can even break it down to like minutes before the event. Um, so that's a buyer consult. Okay, so let's go in here and schedule Craig for a buyer consultation. Now I have this. Let me change my leeway so that it doesn't. My buffer minimum notice 0 hours, so that way I can schedule it right away. Just so for purposes of showing an example. So again, you go in here, and like I said, most of the time, if I'm on the phone with the client, I'm scheduling the appointment with them. I'm, not necessarily sending the link because, again, you send them the link, they may disregard it, they may be caught up with other things. So if you can physically schedule it with them, I think it's best. But if we go in here and let's see, let's go back one more time. I'm not looking at meetings. Let's edit this so that you can see if the text comes through. Notification, text, reminder, edit. Let's have that set up for 12 minutes. We can go back here. Schedule Craig. Craig, what's your email?
Craig at KNS Real Estate.
And so again, if you're scheduling this, you don't have to fill in all those details. Craig, what's your phone number?
757-651-6660.
And then it's scheduled. So Craig should be getting in a couple minutes a reminder, because I think I scheduled it for 12 minutes out. So like in another minute.
Yep.
What'd you get?
Oh, there's the email.
So you got an email. And then he'll get a text reminder about it too. So again, it's just one, it keeps people on track, because how many times have you called someone and said, oh, I'll call you. Oh, did you get the text? There's the text. So it's really nice. I find that it works well, especially for me, because you may have scheduled an appointment with a client, and, before I use this, the chances of me actually getting someone on the phone was like a 50-50. Since using Calendly, it's probably a 90% that I'm going to get them on the phone. We're going to get things done. It gives them a timeline. It's 15 minutes for my consultations with them, so they feel comfortable with the timeline. And I feel like if you can add a layer of professionalism to it and punctuality to it too, it's very helpful. What it also does is it keeps me accountable. So if I talk to a client and it was, Kendra's buyer, and I pre-qualified them, and before I would say, oh yeah, I'll get back to you tomorrow with some details. And they'd say, okay, afternoon's great. Okay, afternoon. So afternoon rolls around the next day. What did I do? All of a sudden it's like 4 o'clock. I'm like, shoot, I forgot to call that person. But this holds me very accountable, because I'm looking at my calendar that day and I'm like, oh, Mr. Smith is expecting my phone call at 3 o'clock. I better have my shit straight, know what I'm doing for that client, have all the pre-approval, everything ready to go in preparation for that 3 o'clock time. And it keeps me from finding myself elsewhere. I just stay more on target with my day because I'm using Calendly for all of my types of appointments. So I only put in like buyer consultation, listing consultation, but truthfully, I don't necessarily think you need to use Calendly to schedule out home inspections and all those things. But the more that you're putting them on your calendar will prevent you from being in a situation where you've double booked yourself, or you've forgotten something. So again, it's only going to allow a client to book an appointment if your calendar is open, and open in whatever time frame of the day. So if you only want to do buyer consultations, in the morning from 9 to 12 any morning of the week, that's the only times that it will book it, unless you already have something else on your calendar. And then the other benefit of it too is if the client finds themselves in a situation where they can't meet the appointment and they've gotten that reminder for 24 hours in advance, it will allow them to reschedule that appointment. So I've had that happen, with clients. They're just, they have to reschedule. Their workday gets busy, someone gets sick, whatever it is. It's automatically going to allow them to reschedule to a time slot that works best for them. So I just, have you said, Rob, you've been using it? Yeah. What kind of appointments do you book through it?
15-minute consultation. I remember one meeting you said try to do 15 minutes because everybody's not instead of 30.
Yeah.
People feel like I can do 15 minutes.
Correct. Yeah. Especially if it's an introduction call. They're new people to you. You haven't talked to them before. Obviously, when you get into the more of the face-to-face, go ahead and block off what you think is appropriate time. If it's only 30 minutes, then perfect. But remember, give yourself those buffer times before and after for travel. That's always helpful. But you can, like I said, you can have tons of different types of meetings. If you want to have it to where it's, links to Zoom, you can. But I think it's really helpful. If you find yourself in a situation where you're like, okay, well, normally, you've got the 9 to 5 calendar and you're going on vacation. Simplest thing to do is just put it in your regular calendar, vacation, and then it'll just automatically not make it available. But, so for instance, I'll be traveling this weekend, and so I blocked off my calendar just so that I wouldn't, end up talking to someone and not be on the road. But again, you can customize this, and then you can do it. You don't have to do it for just spans of time like that. You can literally break it down. So if you only want to have yourself available from 9 to 11 on Fridays, but then you're available again from 2 p.m. to 4 p.m., then you can schedule it out. You can have any number of blocks of time based on that specific event or, meeting that you want to have. So it's just really a great way to keep track of your calendar and to keep people, in line with, scheduling out and making, I think it's so easy for us to be in a situation where we just try to make ourselves available whenever. And this really helps narrow it down so that people feel like, okay, it's, you don't just show up to your doctor's office and expect to be seen. You have to call, you have to make an appointment. It's just like that for anything really. You want to have flexibility in our industry, but you also want to have some level of structure. And I think this adds that structure to it. There's other options, with different things that you can do. I haven't really dealt with it. I don't think it's necessary. We're not full on, corporation type things. The other thing that I do like about it is sometimes it's how I remember who I talked to. So I can go back, and if I talked to someone last week, but I just, I can't remember, who their name was, especially if you're doing some sort of type of lead generation where you're kind of like filtering through some people, I'll go back to Calendly and I'll be like, oh gosh, who was that person I talked to? And it saves everybody that ever books with me through Calendly. It saves them in the app as like a contact. So so if I maybe didn't have their contact information anywhere else because I forgot to add them to my CRM, I can find them in there, or I can, like I said, search what I have coming up. It'll show you all of your current events that you have scheduled, all your past events. So if I talked to someone last week and I just can't think of their name and I'm on the phone with the agent, I can scroll back and be like, oh, that's right, it was Lucas. And, we talked on whatever day. And then also too, if there's more, like I said before, if there's more than one person that will be involved in the appointment, you can add them as well as additional attendees. So that's about it. Any questions?
On your appointments, you have the ability to copy a link, and I put that link in my signature block
Yes.
on my emails.
Yes, that's a great idea. So if you want to have just like a generalized, schedule an appointment with me kind of thing, and not specific to a listing or buyer, that's a great thing to do. Have it in your link, have it in on your. So also too, if you're on social media, I don't know if many of you have used. If you're using Instagram, I recommend that you get what's called a tree. It's Tree Link, I think. Hold on, let me pull it up. Yes, it's Link Tree, but it's spelled linktr.ee. So what it does is it's an interface that, when you have an Instagram page, you can have one web link on your profile. Well, one web link isn't enough, in my opinion. So what this does is it takes you, it's free, it's Linktree, and what it does is it takes you to multiple pages. So it's where someone can leave me a Google review, they can apply on my website, so it goes straight to my application page, or they can schedule an appointment with me, or they can check out my reviews. So this,
how's that spelled again?
It's Linktree, so it's linktr.ee. But it's completely free. You set it up, and then basically it links to all your other web pages so that you have multiple pages that they can then go to. And so if they wanted to schedule an appointment with me, it takes them directly to my Calendly page, and then it takes them right to my calendar, and then they schedule an appointment right there. And I've had people do that from social media. And then, like I said, it can take to your landing page for your listings, like your Google reviews, any of those pages. But I think it's helpful to have that available on. Oh shoot, I have a bunch of them. Leave a review, explore neighborhoods, all kinds of things. So yeah, so that is a great way just to have your calendar out there and available for anyone to reach out to you. QR codes, you can also make that link into a QR code, put it on. So like a lot of the postcards that I send out, it's on the postcard. That's your call to action. So remember, anytime you're doing any sort of advertising, you should have a call to action. So that's my call to action. It's a QR code on the postcard that says schedule a refi consultation with me, or schedule a buyer consultation with me, and that they can scan the QR code and it takes them directly to my Calendly link, and then they book it right from there. So just lots of different ways. Oh, also too, you can change what your so in your profile, you can change your name, you can upload your picture, you can have a nice little message here about yourself, and then you also, and I didn't do it when I was, but you can change your link too. So this takes to the main Calendly page. So if you wanted, to say sold by Carrie, whatever, it can, this just defaulted to this when it created this account today, but I would suggest making it something easy for people to remember. But you can change that. And then go back out here to the account details. You can upload your logo. So everything can be branded to your brand, and everything else. And so it's, oh, I see what it is. I'm on the 15-day free trial. So I'm trying to think of what the cost is. Yeah, so $10 a month is really not much. I think that's what I'm paying right now. So here's the difference in what you get. One-to-one only, and then
I've had it for a while. You don't need anything more than standard.
Yeah, standard is definitely all you need for anything that we're doing. The email reminders. So yeah, so some of the reminders and stuff are through the standard. But again, I think it's worth it. It's like I said, it's $10 for quite a few features that are very helpful. And like I said, I think the rate of return and getting someone to follow up with you, I think, is a lot stronger when you use this. So, and you can have links and all kinds of stuff. So if you wanted to send something out and it was a commercial for yourself, or, you know, an introduction video, you know, there's so many different things you can do with this. So if you ever have questions about it, feel free to reach out to me, or I think Rob's used it too. So that's it. So.
All right. Thank you, ma'am.
You're welcome. I'm gonna sign off.